Hey, Sarah. Is it still the case? Is it still the case? Yo, it changes.
I haven't been able to hear you.
Can you try again?
Yeah.
Is it the same? Is it still not working? I'm just gonna stare at the screen for a little minute and then maybe I can clip this part out later. Hi. If I'm still wave one hand if I still don't have any audio. Wave two hands if I still don't have any audio. Yay, great. Ew. All right, y'all. Okay. Round two. Yeah, this is the fun part of all this. Like I was actually saying from the bottom of my heart the very first time that I tried this video, it's been a lot of fun for me to like literally practice all of this stuff with you. The live streaming stuff, improvising and like just playing around. And I'd really love to answer like questions. So if y'all got questions about the stuff that I'm talking about, feel free. But as always, let's start with a definition. I thought I looked it up. There it is. All right. I actually haven't read this yet, so this will be interesting. I'm going to be as surprised as you are with the definition here. A triad. A triad is a chord consisting of three pitches, the adjacent pitches being separated by a third, the interval of a third, I can say, and thus the whole capable of notation on three adjacent lines or three adjacent spaces on the staff, also termed the common chord. There are four types of triads, not chords, triads. The major triad, the minor triad, the diminished triad, and the augmented triad. I definitely skipped over a little bit there. And then it goes on. It talks about scale degrees, which I'm going to bring up in a little bit. And there's a lot of stuff here. Once again, the dictionary is always a good place if you're really wondering how these words are currently defined in our notational system. But essentially, what that's getting at is that if we think triad, we think four things: major, minor, diminished, or augmented. And specifically, what I did there is I just played C major, C minor, C diminished, and C augmented. D minor, B flat major. In a jazz mentality, here's D minor over B flat, F major, D minor, B flat major, G minor, E flat. So part of the definition was that it's basically, to put it in like simpler terms, you can stack it by thirds, meaning that you can literally have it be on any staff. Like I don't even need this clef here. I don't even need to know whether I'm in treble or bass clef. If I just take this line and then put another line above it and another line above it, which I'll do right here. I hope that's legible. I also hope that's legible. Here I have a triad because it's able to be stacked in those thirds. I can literally if all these notes were all spread out all over the staff, but I had C, E, and G, and I'm able to put them in this order, if I invert something, or if I take a G that's all the way up here and put it down here, I have a definable triad. So we have these 4 types: major, minor, diminished, and gotta remember to flat that 5, and augmented, where I sharp the 5 of a major. So what we do is we can take this idea on its own, like I can sit here and practice, okay, bum, 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 the 5 chord is a mid root, both function as dominants, that, oh, is this the whole, okay, all right. I actually really love this question. I'm not familiar with Walter Piston, but I've heard this idea before, that the 7 diminished is just a 5 chord with an omitted root. I'm going to get to that in like 5 minutes. I'm going to noodle around on that first, and I'm going to go under these to show what the 5, what the 7, all that stuff is. Down with that question. And I have my own views on it, but really, I hate to say it this way, it kind of doesn't matter. It's just whichever way you look at it. But it's however you want to view the harmony, however it suits you best. So we can either think about these triads without a scale and thinking just the 4 different triads on each one. Major, minor, diminished, augmented. Okay, I did it in C. Now do it in D. Major, minor, diminished, augmented. Now do it in E. Major, minor, diminished, augmented. That's one way to put this in your brain so that you have these shapes under your fingers ready to bring out. You can also what's called invert them. So if I play C major, which is this first chord here, I have a C major scale written out, no accidentals. So the first chord in C major is going to be C major. I know it sounds like kind of like a self-defining definition, but C major chord is the first root in the C major scale. So I can either think of it as individual, like I can play, okay, A major. There's an A major chord, but is this the root of A major? Is this the 5th of D major? Or is this the 4th of E major? If we want to put these in a scalar function, Gabe, I'm going to get over to that question in just a moment. If we want to put these in a scalar function, what we can do is take our typical, I hate saying typical or normal or common, so I'm just going to leave that word out. We take our major scale, and all we really have to do is add a 3rd and 5th above each of these. So what I'm doing here, and you'll notice I'm using some different colors, and I'm writing some Roman numerals under it, either capital or lowercase. What these are going to do is have like this kind of, once again, self-defining idea here. This is the 5 of a C major scale. G major. C, D, E, F, G major would be the 5th. That's both because G, B, D is a major chord, as well as the 5th scale degree in a major scale is going to be a major triad. They corroborate each other. So if you understand one and you understand the theory and the ideas behind one of them, the certain intervals that go into a major chord, the certain placement of that note within the scale, it deepens your understanding because your understanding of it is broader. So now I've got to the chord Gabe is talking about. And actually, this is great. I'm going to do it in brown. Nothing against diminished, but I'm going to write them diminished in brown. I'm writing the major chords naturally occurring in the major scale in red. The minor chords are in blue. and the diminished chord is brown. So, Gabe's question has to do with tension and release, or an idea called cadences. Did y'all lose my sound again? For some reason, Facebook keeps defaulting back to this like internal microphone instead. Okay, good. Thanks, Zach. Because literally, I'm like, I am trying to figure this out, but it's not simple. In any event, this 7 chord can lead to this 1. And we have a type of cadence. We have a type of closure. We have a feeling of like, It's like when if you were to expand that and blow that idea out of proportion in all these different crazy ways. I'm adding a lot of extra tones to it, and now my chat feed isn't scrolling. I'm adding a lot of extra tones. This struggle is indeed insanely real, my friend. But there's an idea out there. If we stack triads, we create what's called upper structures. We extend ideas. So for example, here's C major 7, C major 9. I'm going to throw a sharp 11 on there and a 13, and I'm going to get some crunch. I would never play a major 13 chord like this, like stacking it in thirds like this, although it is like really pretty, but typically people put like these cool voicings on it, like jazz. There's an idea in jazz called rootless voicings, where if I do something like, it's a pretty sound. Now you have more information. Sorry, that's my new lick right now. I'm just going to go with that. But the idea of this when he's talking about that diminished leading to the root, or it's really a question of how strong your pull is there and how much you want to convince yourself of something that is kind of opinionated. Theorists love to take stuff that happened and give it names, and then as they continue to give it names, people start to have different ideas of what those names should mean. So I can play this. I can call it, oh, that's a nice diminished 7 to 1 resolution. Or I can play this. And then it's like, oh, that's a nice dominant flat 9 tonic resolution. If you choose to hear this, if you choose to take this idea and call it one thing, it's really up to you. But can you provide evidence for your idea? That's really a lot of what I've been learning in my program recently has been just about research. People have a lot of different ideas about a lot of different stuff. But can you provide evidence for your claim? know, Gabe, what do you think? If you're still checking this out, do you think this is just a rootless this? They're so similar. One of them has a little bit stronger of a pull. And if I had even better classical harmony chops and able to voice lead that out in an instant with my practice, you might hear it a little bit more convincingly. But in any event, this is a great starting point for practicing getting triads under your fingers. If you can do this in C major, try it in G major. You have to keep in mind that you have this F sharp here in your key signature now. That's part of the G major scale. And if you do it in D major, you have to keep in mind F sharp and C sharp. If you know that the 1, 4, and 5 are major chords, major triads, you can do the 1, 4, and 5 of all 12 keys. 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. You can just keep modulating to closely related keys. I think the context makes the difference for me. Absolutely. Do you mean the idea of like whether it's a full closing or not? And also another question I would ask back to that would be, give me examples. A lot of what I've been doing in my own personal practice recently has been practicing with, it's called chordal quintal harmonies. When we look at music like this is called tertian harmony, because we're building our harmony off of thirds. Even when I extend the chords out and make 7 chords. So we have 1, 3, 5, 7 to throw it on that and keep that within the scale. Wow, I should be better at this. Or throw 9s on it. You might start to think like, hey Dan, that sounds like how you play. And I thought, you know what? You're right. So this is really cool, but do you know what? Is that the one that's like, I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend. I am kidding. You know what's funny? I'm like actually momentarily drawing a blank on Wonderwall. How's it go? I hope that's not kicking around your head at this point, but not to throw shade at Oasis. Although, I'm not sure why not. But, in any event, tertian harmony. That's kind of a clunky way to go through it. I'm so sorry. I appreciate this. Yo, you're allowed to say whatever you want. This feed is hopefully a space that people can actually say things. Ooh, that is dope. Ooh, and that resolution's weird. Woo! What was that? Ew! Ew! Why is this not working the way that I wanted? Oh, because it should be a minor triad in my right hand. Oh, this is really nasty. So like I was saying, a lot of my own practice has been into fourths and fifths. So it's the idea that instead of stacking things in thirds, we stack things at the intervals of a fourth and another fourth. Right there. Fourths. Yay. And I've been working on 2-5-1 resolutions, and I'll give you a little hint as to my practice methodology and the way that I do things. I think, all right, I'm going to do a 2-5-1. I know I haven't talked about that yet, but but I can talk about it right now. Oh my gosh. 2-5-1. That is the bread and butter progression for like 80% of jazz pre like 1960, 1970. That was a massive generalization. I should back up my claims. But if I'm in the key of F major and I want to play a 2-5-1, I play G minor, C major, and F major. And I'm going to make that really plain for right now. So what I do is instead of like doing jazz and going, which is such a nice sound, you can make an entire tune out of. I'm sorry. That's like, I'm like really fixated on that right now. But instead, I can go like this. And it brings out that same type of tension and release, that same resolution. A little bit of a different release. And when you practice around with quartal quintal harmony, which is stacking things in fourths or fifths again, you get totally different sounds. There's a really famous jazz pianist who just recently passed, unfortunately, in McCoy Tyner. And he was so good with this stuff, it was ridiculous. I heard a version of him playing On Green Dolphin Street, great jazz tune. Where he literally just keeps like, it's called a pedal tone. He just keeps playing one note in the bass and is just like. Ooh, there's a little reharmony. Woo! Thank you so much for bearing with me as I butcher this absolutely gorgeous tune. It's been a while. I'm also playing it in D flat. But when I practice these kinds of things, I practice these 2-5-1 patterns. I do it in one key and I'm like, okay, I did that in F. Now I'm going to do it in B flat. Now I'm going to do it in E flat. Now I'm going to do it in A flat. And I make sure that I can go all the way around that circle of fifths in one direction. Then I go all the way around in the opposite direction. Then I start doing diagonals and do the different acrostics of each other, even though acrostic is definitely not the right word there. So for example, I'd start in C. Here's a 2-5-1 in C major quartal quintal harmonies. And then I do it in F sharp. Let's see. And then I would do it in G, because that would be going up to the other side. And then I would do it in, I gotta really think about this, in D flat. So it makes it so I don't get so used to doing it only in one way. I have a little bit more fluidity with it. I get that one shape, that one pattern, and I just stuff it under my fingers so that at any given time I can use it. And then the best way to go about after that, I go one direction, the other direction, do the acrostics on the circle of fifth, and then I do it chromatic going up, and then chromatic going down, and then I do it all over again. I almost try and like slip into like a sort of meditation in doing it, because some people might listen to that and think like, dude, that's really boring. But you got to take pleasure in the practice. And once you get a little bit better at it, that's when things get fun. Anything. I just recently read this book by this guy, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Incredible work on creativity, flow. If you've heard of this cat, but you haven't actually listened or read any of his stuff, please do yourself a favor. And give it a read. And he talks about anything that you're getting better at will, by and large, become more enjoyable as well. So that's the wonderful thing about these arts ideas, is that you can just keep getting better and better at it. And the better you get at it, the more enjoyable it is to continue to get better at it. It's literally one of the wonderful times in the world we could say it's a positive feedback loop. It's something that the more you do it, the more enjoyable it gets. I'm going to change that resolution there. And the deeper, kind of like the more tendrils to the web, either the larger the web grows out of your understanding of something, or the more connections that you make within it. That's actually not a bad analogy. I'm going to put that one right in my back pocket. And I'm just going to play for a little moment. I'm going to see what I can do to use these different ideas. And keep in mind, this is just for a C major scale. So I'm going to transpose it to A. It's such a beautiful sound. That's something I do a lot. I go from this minor triad idea that I put all these extensions on, so I make scales out of it. Right here, I'd have a Dorian scale. And I go to the major chord a half step below it. And I like to use Lydian on that. You can keep this common tone of the fourth. Do, re, mi, fa, 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 fi, fi, mi, re, do, ti. I talked for a moment about rootless voicings, so now that you've got this in your ear, you hear that low. I can't sing that low, it's just a little bit out of my range, but keep this going in your head. Chill it out for a moment. And take it somewhere else. Pretty harsh, sorry. You'll notice there are definitely times when I'm playing, when I'm just kind of exploring around, that I'll say the key changes that I make are kind of harsh. It's a certain kind of tension that I actually like, is that idea of like really settling into something and then kind of like harshly stepping away from it. But how much can I convince you that that's what I want to do? Ooh. I can't help it. The Lydian sound, getting that sharp 4. pencil shapes. And then I'm making a choice on where I want to scalarly go based upon where I end up there. Oh, Zach. My good buddy. I do appreciate that. I can do the same shape up here, the same chordal quintal harmony idea, but I can imply a lot of different things with its resolution. If I remembered what it was that I was doing. Now that I finally have warmed myself up, feel good in the fangles, I'm going to do one more little thing. I'm going to noodle around with some of these triad ideas. I'm going to invert them as well. So the idea of instead of just doing a B flat major chord scale like this, I can also do it. Instead of having the B flat on the bottom, C on the bottom, D on the bottom, I can put these same three notes, but I'll put the B flat on top. Or put the D on top. I can invert the chord to whatever suits me. I hope you're staying well out there. I've seen, I don't want to say troubling things going on, but I see people being willing to ask for help more often, especially in times of financial struggle. So, for those of you who feel as though you're struggling, I encourage you to recognize that you're not alone, and that it's okay. We have some interesting things happening. For those of you who have the means to help out and who are willing to, do so. But it's always a pleasure to practice with y'all, to learn a little bit more.